All right, hello and welcome to our very first live build with Bardeen.ai. We're going to be building a no-code automation that opens up the first 3 results of Google search. And here's how it's going to look like. You're going to click option B to launch a shortcut, and you're going to have 3 tabs open up. And in this video, the reason I want to do it live is that so that you can see how I think about building no-code automations and hopefully get you inspired to build your own. So the first thing I love doing is I like mapping out automation. So here I have my video that I'm here to record. I usually break it down myself, but in this case, you guys are following along. So what do we want to do to build the automation? So we need to get the following elements to make this automation possible. So we need to get a search query, so something that we're looking for. Then we need to create a URL in Google with the query, and then we need to somehow extract the first few results from that page, and finally we need to open URLs in new tabs. So this is how it looks like. We have 4 different steps. We need to get the search query from a user. Then we need to search for whatever the query is and extract the results, and we need to open the results in separate tabs. So here is how I'm going to do this. I'm going to open Bardeen.ai. Let's go to, there we have it. Okay, so here we have Chrome browser window. And by the way, if you're curious, the idea and the inspiration behind this playbook came from this email thread right here. So Jake here wants to look up the results that bypass the Google ads, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So the first part is let's get a query from the user. So I just opened Bardeen.ai and our integration. Let's go to the compose mode, and the way it works is it's like a command line interface, but it uses natural language. So the first thing I want to actually do is to set a variable. So a variable is going to be called query, and we're going to make it a string. String is just text. Let's create a string from value, and I'm gonna say it something really cool. That's going to be our query that we're going to search for, and there we have it. After this, I want to understand, okay, how do we construct a URL in Google with this query? So I'm going to go to Google, and let's search for something. Let's do dope stuff. Okay, so the URL structure is at the very top. So we have dope stuff right there and some information we don't really need. Okay, so here's the link structure. This is going to be the first part, and then we need to create, using this method, the rest of the automation. Okay, so now I want to set a variable that will be Google search. We'll just call it Google, and let's create another string, a string from value, and paste it here. Okay, so here we have a variable, and here we have a fixed constant, but we want to just be able to use that. Okay, the last thing I want to use is if we use a constant just in its current form, it's going to have a bunch of spaces. As you can see, we have a plus here, and then if I do that part, if I just introduce a space, it's not going to do the job. Oh, it actually did do it, huh? So that's cool. So we might be able to work that out. But I had another command that we've built. In that command, it creates a search pattern. So let me set another variable, and it's going to be called search query, and let's type search, and I think the command was called, what was it called? Okay, so now I don't remember what the command is called, but that's no problem. We're going to click here and we're going to go to the commands catalog and look it up by name. Okay, here we have the commands. Let's see what I have with search, open help, search link, and the command is actually called encode, URL encoded string from string, and then now let's do the $sign and use the user query, and it's going to generate an encoded string, as you can see, with the percentage signs, similar to the one above. I just want to make sure that it happens 100%. In the case of Google, it worked, but I'm not sure if in the case of other browsers, if it works. So far, we have 3 variables that we've created. The first one is the user query, then we have at the very top the encoded user query, and then we have the first part of the URL. So going back to our Notion document over here, we have created that, so this is awesome. Let's turn it into to-dos. Okay, and now we want to create the URL, the full URL. In order to create it, we need to create one URL out of the 2 pieces that we have. So the command we're interested in is called concatenate. Concatenate 2 strings. So it's do concatenate, or I think it's get concatenated strings from and to arrays. In case you're not familiar with the programming terms, do not worry about it. There are just a few of them, and one of which is string, and the other one is concatenate, which just takes 2 strings and puts them together. So the first one, let's use our variables over here. We have Google, and that's actually constant. Then we're going to do a comma here, and then now let's use our search query and click on run this. And as you can see here, we have the URL. If we click on it, it does what we need it to do. Okay, the last thing I want to do is here we have the URL. I want to figure out, okay, how can we get those first few links extracted from this page. So this page will be opened in the background automatically, and now I want to go scrape the URLs. We have our background scraper, so I'm going to create a scraper model. A scraper model is just a tool that pretty much tells which HTML elements you want to grab from a page. So the command we need is create a new scraper model. New scraper model. Let's run this. And here we have a list scraper that we need. The reason for it is because we have list items. Every search result, and we have 10 here on this page, represents a list item. So therefore, we need to pick the list scraper, and then the first thing here is we need to show the scraper, hey, there's a list and here are 2 similar elements on the list. The scraper is getting a big facelift very soon, so it's going to be a lot more intuitive very shortly. Okay, so I'm going to click on one element and on the same element in the next list item, and here we have the highlighted list items. Now I want to click on a particular element I'm interested in, and I'm going to get a link from here and call it a link. It's going to be called link 1. Okay, let's get link 1. And here is what I did not think about. Because we do not want to get all links, we actually want to get the first 3 links, or the first 1 link. I'm actually not going to use the list scraper. You saw how I think about creating list scrapers to extract all information, but in our case, instead, I want to build an individual scraper model. And the reason it's going to be advantageous is because we just pick fewer elements. Okay, so let's pick the individual scraper over here, and let's click on the element one more time, and let's grab the link from here. Let's call it link 1. And then let's click on the second one. Let's call it link 2. Let's pick the link variable. The last item over here, we're going to call it link 3 and give it the link parameter. Okay, so we have 3 links scraped. These elements, they look very different from the highlighted YouTube video, from the snippets, from all of this. So this should work on pretty much any website. I have 3 links. This is exactly what I was looking for. Let's click on this field, and let's say what we want to call the model. I want to call it Google Search Scraper. Okay, so we're going to be extracting 3 links from this URL that gets automatically generated. Now let's get data using the scraper model. So this command uses the scraper model that we created to extract information from the page. Okay, and I'm going to click on this, but here is the really cool part. Because I want to use the scraper in the background, I do not want to actually see the page, the Google page open up. I'm going to say on URL and use that last URL over here. So that is the scraper that does the extraction in the background. Let's go and run this. And technically right now there is a window in the background that gets opened up and it extracts the results from over there. Okay, so there we have it. Let's click on Bardeen. So the process is obviously trial and error sometimes. Again, this is a live build. So here is the window that got opened up in the background, and that's why the scraping didn't happen. We have the URL over here, and this is the URL of the extension. So it's not the URL that we're looking for. So what I'm going to do is let me delete this part, and I'm going to create and concatenate a string, this one, but I'm going to create it as another constant. So let me do this. I'm going to set final URL to be concatenated string of 2 variables. One is going to be Google and the other one is going to be Google search or search query. Okay, so this way now the final URL is a constant. Okay, so I'm going to delete this command because we not need it anymore, and I want to run the get data using scraper model, using last scraper model on URL, and here instead of using last URL, which got messed up the last time, I'm going to use the final URL. Okay, and let's click on run this. And now there's a page in the background that's opened up, and here we have the results. Okay, it worked. This is a little bit of troubleshooting that you might have been looking for. Cool. So we have 4 variables and a scraper model. Let's check in on our list over here. So we have created a link and we've extracted the first few results. Now the very last part is how do we open the URLs? It's going to be actually super simple. So the output of the scraper is in the table format. Instead, we need to get links so that we can open them. In order for us to do this, we're going to create a string, and then we can turn that string into URL object types. What this means is that it's just going to be clickable things that you can hover over. Right now it's just text and you cannot just click on them, but the URL types you can click on them, like in this case. Okay, so let's a string. So string is just text, string from table, and then reference the last table. So this is the table that was created, and here we have a string, and now we can click on things. Now we want to run the command. The last command is open all URLs, I think, open all links in text, and there we have our text. So I think this is last text. I think this is the one we're looking for, and yeah, let's click on this guy and let's click on run this, and it opened 3 links exactly like we were looking for. Okay, so this command opened the 3 links from the search results. This one, this one, that one, and this one. You can see even the colors have changed, which is awesome. The last part I want to do, which is my favorite part, let's save it as a playbook. So we're going to call it open the first 3 search results. The first 3 Google search results. Google search results. Okay, and let's see what we want to customize. So the query is going to be parameterized. It's going to be a different variable every time. Okay, search for, and then let's call it query. Okay, there we have it. This is the only thing I want to change. This is a constant. This part is going to be, let's see, search query. So it's going to be a relative because it uses a variable query. So that's going to take care of itself. Scraper model is going to stay the same. The final URL is going to get automatically generated because we're using 2 variables. Then we're getting data from this page. This page is also a variable, so it changes. So that's perfect. Then we're getting a string from whatever table this command returns. And finally, we're opening up all links. This is the only command I'm not exactly sure about, because we should have made it a variable. All right, let's click on Save Playbook and let's test it. So there we have the playbook. Open the first 3 Google search results and let's click on it. Here is our variable. Let's do John Bardeen. That's going to be our query. I'm going to hit on run this playbook. It's going to open something in the background, extract the links, and then boom, there we have it. Here's John Bardeen, here's Nobel Prize, and here we have two pages opened up. So in that case, it looks like the 3rd link did not get picked up, but that's fine with me. Let's do another one. Let's write automation with AI, and let's see what that turns back. Okay, so first link, second link, there we have, and the 3rd link, boom, there we have it. Probably depends on the structure of the previous page. Okay, I'm pretty happy about what we're seeing over here, and this is the playbook. This is how you create a playbook. We've done some troubleshooting, we looked up the commands, we've broken them down here in Notion, which is something I definitely recommend you to do. If you do not know how to build something, you need to break it down into this atomic components. And now that you know what's possible, we have taken a look at the scraper, at the background scraper in particular, and we extracted links from there, and then we'll launch links that we've extracted. So once you learn more commands, once you learn what's possible, then your imagination starts going wild and you start coming up with really interesting and time-saving automations for you. So if you have any questions, let me know, and yeah, would definitely love to see you in one of our next videos or in our community in Slack. I'm going to leave a link below to download the extension so that you can play around with it. And until next time. And this was our very first live build of a playbook. Cheers.